everybody, we're back again, back here in my workshop. My name's Colwin Way, back for the series of bringing the skill centre to your home live videos. So today, another short day, as you'll see later on, I'm sure. It's a nice hot one today. We're going to be making, or giving you a project to make. I did say last week that prep up, get the timber ready, and we're going to make this 3-part raised bowl. So we'll do that in 2 stages, a bit today, a bit on Thursday. So you can take your time, make it really nice, take extra special with all the sanding and things like that, and make it a really special piece. And I'll be honest with you guys, I've been getting so many pictures in on Facebook and Instagram and things like that of the smokers that you've been making, that you've been doing really well. So if I haven't answered you yet, you will get a reply. There is a little bit of delay between Axminster and me and all those sorts of things, so I'm going into work every now and again now to get a bit more information. So I will answer, so keep sending in the pictures. I expect loads of pictures of these because this is a project that you know, we can really get to grips with. So it's a fairly simple one, if I'm honest. I purposely in this series haven't done that many bowls, so this is basically an expansion on a bowl design really. We're going to do today the base and we'll do the stem. We'll see how far we get anyway, and then we'll probably concentrate then on the main bowl bit on Thursday. So I did say to you last week that I'm getting these blanks from pre-cut blanks that Axminster Tools are selling. So I've got the, it's all ash. I've got the 6x2, I've got a 10x2, and then I've got the 12x3x3, and with that piece I've just cut it in half. So if you're going to buy some timber, I'm making it simple really, rather than just cut a long length off and have a little stubby bit left. Let's just do 2 short stems, and then you've got the opportunity then to make a couple of pairs if you want to go and get a couple of each of the blanks. So to hold these, there are a few different holding methods we're going to use. Today's going to be a lot of sanding going on, so the dust extractor is going to be on. Remember our new extraction bay out there, it's all up and running now. Still the old extractor, but we're going to have the extractor on quite a lot. I'm going to have a light there, very basic techniques, and we're going to oil finish this. And I want to talk to you about the different types of oil in a moment, because this is going to contain food. Even though it's dry food, it's going to contain food. So we need to have a look at that really, and why we'd use oil over a wax, all those sorts of things. Okay, so we've got Finley behind the camera today. It's a sunny day again, so Charlie's gone swimming. So Finn's here. Finn is the cameraman that started it off, my eldest son, the guy that started it off, so he's not a stranger to it. So you know what to do, ask questions, he'll ask me, and hopefully clear up any of those issues. So let's here we go. So let's just clear a little bit of this out of the way. So that's one of the stems later on. In fact, let me get that right out of the way. I've already prepped up some abrasive and things like that, so we're going to save that piece for Thursday. That's the 10x2, and we're going to mount this 6x2. I'll try and take off these labels as much as you can, and the only reason I say that, it does gum up your chisels a little bit, so if you can get rid of that now, which is dead easy to take off, and then you're good to go. We're going to hold our screw chuck in. So I think Finn, now if you come in a bit closer, don't need to see me talking anymore. So what we're going to do, screw chuck on there. This is the SK114 chuck, the one that we make in Axminster, and we're holding that in the C-jaws. Okay, nice little screw chuck in there. Now at the moment that's quite long. That's a bit of overkill, I reckon, really. So I'm just going to pack it out with a piece of ply or MDF, and then we can screw on our bowl blank, and we're going to do the base first, because this is going to have a little mortise, a hole up through the middle that we can then attach the tenon of our centre spindle, our stem to. And I'm just literally get that on nice and tight. Good thing with these prepped blanks, where they've got a nice plain surface, especially on a screw chuck, they're going to be really sound. You don't get any of that wobble from sort of warped or bowed timber. So there we go. All good. So let's start off, if that's particularly wobbly, then you can clean that outer edge off first, but it's only a small blank. I'm going to clean that front face off just initially, get my light up. Not have it too bright, and get the controller nice and close to me, starting at 0 of course. Now if you've got a lathe with several pulley positions, and it's an electronic variable speed lathe, then when you're bowl turning you can sacrifice some of that power for a little bit more speed, or vice versa, depending on the bowl size. Now my lathe here, this has 2 belt pulley settings, and we refer to them as low and high, high and low range, and that's basically like the gears on your bicycle. So my low range would be for bigger bowls, things that I need to drive a lot of power through, and I've got a speed range here of between 50 and 1250 RPM, but you get a terrific amount of speed. Refer to that as your first gear. If you go to the high range, where I work most of my projects in, that gives me a speed of between 150 and almost 4,000 revs. That's my high range, okay? So I'm going to keep, because these 2 bowls that we're making aren't particularly big, we're going to keep it on high range. And this one here, I'll probably be turning it around about anything between sort of 12 to 1600 for this. That will be fine. And then obviously a little bit slower for the bigger one that we're going to do on Thursday. When it comes to the spindle though, that's a different story. We can go a lot faster on that if we want to. But always to start with, you've heard me say it so many times, start with the lathe on 0 if you've got the ability to do so, or lowest speed, and then turn the machine on and slowly creep the speed up. It's only 400 revs at the moment, but what I'm going to do is just give you an idea where centre is. If you want a size for spigots and things like that, just a pencil. Once the lathe's up and running, you can quickly find centre. Okay, so rafters on. We're just going to skim that bottom, and then we're going to add our recess in this case. So we're going to expand into a recess. So let's get speed up, and just a 3/8 bowl gouge we're going to use, or 10mm bowl gouge. Yeah, that's running at 1300. Starting to get a little bit of a wobble on, so I'm not going to go any faster for the moment. We're going to skim the outside, the underside, sorry, just pull cut to start with. So just a little pull cut. There we are. I'm going to size my foot. You want to be perfect circle there really. Just going to be a little bit more accurate with that sizing a moment. So I'm going to get the speed size up, and we want to go external. So this is the speed sizer that I told you about earlier a few weeks ago. This is fantastic. Its original idea was from Chris Fisher, the blind woodturner. He used it as an aid to get centering more accurate. But what this is, if you look on here, I don't know whether you'll be able to pick that up on the camera, but there's letters. So those letters represent the jaws that it's sized to. So I want my external dovetail size to measure to the C. So I'm just setting my dividers to C, and then we can, there's a little bit of guesswork going on there, but I think I've got the size fairly good with the pencil. But that's going to match my size for my external part, my C jaws. Really, really quick way of getting sizes for your jaws. Speed size of that, and that's an Axminster Tools product, made again in Axminster. So a good one there. Then we'll use parting tool. And we don't need to go really deep. I suppose really, for something of that size, you get away with a 3mm. If you're unsure, you might want to go a little bit deeper, but 3mm should do. And then I'll just do a little drag cut away from this important edge. I don't want to drag this way now, because if I drag this way, I'll suddenly hit the void and then hit my important edge. So we're just going to drag away from it. Just a drag cut, or pull cut, however you want to call it. And then we will clean that up in a second. We're going to keep it simple though, nothing too tricky. There we are, just roughing the shape out at the moment. You can see there's no clean finishes, and if I stop that, you'll see what I'm talking about there. It's not particularly clean, it's all rough and everything. So I think we can clean it up now. I'll do the dovetail second. I'm going to use my dovetail, my skew chisel, so we're just going to give our scraping. Oh, that one's got a blunt end. Let me get another one. There we go to the I know what that was from yesterday. There we are, that's creating my little dovetail in there. And I think now you can carry on if you want to, and a lot of people love scraping, so if you want to carry on and use the skew just to flatten that bottom off, why not? No one's watching. Well, no one's watching you anyway. You can carry on and go across the bottom. If you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable about scraping everything, why not then? Get your bowl gouge. Where you can get that bevel rubbing, give a little push cut in the centre. There we are, just in the centre. Wiggle up and down a little bit to get rid of that centre pit. And then why not, let's go for a nice scrape again. How about here, we could scrape this, slightly bigger skew. And if you think about a skew, not only is it great for planing cuts and V cuts and rolling beads, but what a great negative rake scraper that makes. Beautiful little finish. Now, let's say, now not that I would have done this before ever, of course, in my life, but let's say you've got a tear and you've sanded and you see that horrible little tear that you don't really want to go back and re-sand out. Well, why not disguise that tear? Let's be arty and make a couple of little lines. I didn't see a tear, really. There we are. Let's turn that little tear into a feature. Obviously not condoning hiding anything, but you know, if you have to, why not? There, so that's done now. Before I go any further, let me just skim this outside edge so we know exactly the size, and we can sand that. And away we go. Any questions yet, Finn?
No, not yet.
Ooh. We're either there's no one there because it's so sunny, or I'm explaining everything so well. So just skimming the edge, and I'm using quite a low handle here and a push cut. I don't want to drag cut this, I want a nice clean surface. Let's have a look. Oh, a little bit to come off still. Look, just the tiniest little bit. There we are. That's happy with that. So I think now what we'll do is just a little bit of sanding. So I'm going to go through my grades of abrasive, and I'm going to start quite coarse. We're going to start. I'm going to leave out the 100 grit. I'm going to go straight to 150, and then we'll go through to 150 straight up to a 240, a 400, and then we'll oil in a 600. So we've got dovetail. So dust extraction's going on. You won't hear me for a minute. Wash. You might do. I'll shout. Okay, so 150.
There is a question here. So we just got one come through, and it said, how would you attack something purely from end grain, such as turning an end grain cheese platter? I would probably do exactly the same, and I'll tell you what, a negative rake scrape from the skew would be beautiful on that sort of thing. Again, it's going to depend on the timber. I'm guessing oak or beech or something like that, but they will all perform beautifully off the bowl gouge as a push cut or negative rake scrape. If you think about that end grain, it's going to be dead hard, so scraping will work nicely on end grain. Careful not to round over your dovetail.
So someone was just asking, why did you flatten the face first when the rim has a greater effect on the balance?
Ask me one more time. Say that again.
So, why did you flatten the face first when the rim, the outer rim, has a greater effect on the balance?
If it was that out of balance, I would have, because it's such a small piece, it wasn't causing me too many issues, so I didn't bother. When on Thursday, when we do the 10x2 piece, we may do that the outside rim first, absolutely. If you're rough turning, or if I'm rough turning, or making a bowl, I generally just cut straight from the outer face, straight off, take that rim away, impart the shaping immediately, so it's not too much of an issue.
You're 15 minutes in.
15 minutes in, well. So, let's go 400 grit. We're rapidly getting through this, and I'll tell you why. It's the ash. Ash sands beautifully well. What else would it say? For instance, if this was sycamore, I'd have to go through a lot more grades. Same with walnut. The scratches from abrasive doesn't get hidden very well, and so you will have to go through a lot more grades with those types, and maybe some rotary sanding or power sanding as well. But no, you can hide a lot with ash. Well, not hide, it just doesn't occur. So a little bit of markings there. So I'm just going to go over that with a 400 grit on the rotary sander. And I'll only do this outside foot, I won't bother with the inside. And then finish with a 600. There we are. There we are, that'll do us. Okay, so we're going to put some oil on this. Now I've chosen here, I've chosen some finishing oil. Now finishing oil isn't a food safe product. Food safe oil is called food safe oil. Chestnut do, the one that I use, the chestnut food safe oil, this is chestnut finishing oil. The difference is finishing oil is known as a toy safe product. So toy safe products have a drying agent in. Once they're dry, they're safe to be mouthed. So if kiddies get hold of it, you know, put it in their mouth, they're going to be safe. Food safe oil generally is completely inert. Usually mineral oils, and means if they were ingested while wet, again same thing. It's not gonna poison anybody. This is toy safe. This is because it's a fruit bowl, not a salad bowl. It gives a slightly higher shine to it as well, and there's a slight amber in there that I'm using just to give a bit of richness back to the timber. I know that once this is dry, it's going to be absolutely safe and no problems at all, because it's going to come into contact with my dry fruit, so not an issue. So that's applied to saturation. Turn the lathe down as far as it'll go. My lathe creeps in at this range at 150. The oil stays there, it doesn't come off. So now I can sand that oil in wet. What we're doing here, this is 600 grit. What we're doing is sanding, creating a mixture of oil and dust. That creates a slurry. It fills the grain, so it acts almost like a grain filler. So you get a real sort of silkiness to the feel of the timber as well. And what we'll do, we'll encourage this to dry. I mean, oil as a product, it takes a fair while to dry anyway. It probably take, in this temperature that we've got here, a good 2 or 3 hours before it's fully dry. But we can certainly start the drying process off in a minute by introducing heat. I can start bringing the speed up because it's soaking in and evaporating as well. There we are, we're getting a nice slurry now, a mixture of the dust and oil. There we are, let's go up even faster. Right, now we got to a point where it's starting to dry and drag, and it's creating a very dry dust paste sort of thing. So at that point you stop sanding, go over to the shavings you've just made, if there are any, and start generating a little bit of pressure. So this is going to create A nice burnish. Takes off all the excess as well. There we go. A little bit of tissue, always buffing to finish. And of course you can add a wax over oil. Not quite the same if you try an oil over wax, but wax and over oil is good. So if you wanted to put a bit of wax on top of that, you could do. There we are. As is, that finish is quite resistant to the moisture that you're going to get from some of the citric acids if they sort of bleach out or leach out. Wax isn't generally the same. Wax will tend to be removed with those citric acids. This is quite good though. Use something like a lemon oil, of course, then it's got its own citric acids in. There we are. So quite a nice finish. That one nice and smooth. It's still got a little bit of drying to do. And that, like I say, over the next course of 2 or 3 hours that will happen. So we can now take that one out. Because we'll be using seed jaws, all I have to do is take that one out. We already size this using the speed sizer, so that can go over and expand back out again. And because we use the speed sizer, I know that that's now at its perfect circle, those jaws, so I'm getting maximum amount of surface contact. So really useful little tool.
What was the oil that you're using?
The oils I'm using is chestnut finishing oil. Okay, before we do anything else, let's just take that out. I'm going to drill a hole, ready for the tenon. I always forget things like that, so we're going to do that whilst it's fresh in my mind. Now, don't forget, everybody, Forstner bits are for side grain, sawtooth bits are for end grain, and it always catches people out. They look very similar. A Forstner bit has just a cutting edge on that surface. Sawtooth bits have saw teeth on that surface. So what a cutting edge does is makes a clean hole in side grain. A sawtooth chisels out, and that's for end grain. We're always, wherever possible, whether it's in turning or carpentry, trying to cut side grain rather than end grain. Saw teeth can get in and cut the side of that that grain, you see. So on this surface, Forstner bits are the best. This particular bit is a 35mm. I haven't picked it for a particular size. I just thought it was big enough. Going to create a nice big mortise to create a tenon. I've already matched up my head and tail stock, so they're on point. They're going to meet up nicely. Lay speed down to about 800 revs.
Someone was just asking, is there a reason that you keep all your finishes and stuff in other containers and not the original pots?
So when it comes to oils and things like that, they're always brushed on, and it's my convenience really more than anything. Exactly the same. Let me just grab something whilst we're talking about it. So there we go, food safe oil, sanding sealer, and the reason being it's convenience. Each of these jars has got a little brush in it, and I find brushing this stuff on far superior than ragging it on. It just works better, you can get that full coverage, that's all.
Also, what would you recommend for a new wood turner, the AC355 or the AC370? Is there a lot of difference?
355, so 370 is the floor standing variable speed. The big difference there, so you're going from a 355, which is bench top, big machine, got good power, same motor power as the 370. The only issues are the difference. I mean, one's variable speed, the 355, 370 is mechanical variable speed. Not a lot of difference there in the way they work. Oh, certainly in the way they work, but not in the actual outcome of what they do. 370's got a much longer distance between centres, so you're over a metre, I think about 1100 between centres. Capacity, I suppose, is the main thing. So if you're looking for something that can do a bit longer and a little bit bigger, then go for 370. But if you're happy and have maybe a smaller workshop, more confined workshop, then go for the 355. Yeah, I mean the price is close. I think there's a couple of £100 with 370 being the cheaper one in it. So yeah, length, capacity, overall length, and a little bit bigger on bowl size. Certainly in terms of quality they're the same. Yeah, they're both really good. Right, there we are. We're going to drill this one out. A little bit of screeching coming up. Get ready. I'm going to get this out quickly. Nice and carefully. Watch that hand. That hand hasn't moved. The reason being, if I pull that tailstock back for any quickly for any reason, I don't want to leave that in that hole because that will then shoot off and fly somewhere. My hand is always controlling that and making sure that doesn't happen. So now that can come back out the way. Most of the time you're in the workshop on your own. You don't have the luxury of being able to then let go and turn the machine off. That's the reason that I do it. And sometimes if you do that, with that in there, it'll get stuck and you won't get it back out again. Okay, so that's the reason I like to remove it with the lathe running. I would say that last question about the two lathes, the stores are open now, and if you're comfortable to going to one of the stores, really have a look at them. Phone the shops up, ask if they've got both there that can be looked at, and see what you think physical size. Because the 370, it's a big old machine, and if you've got room for it, fantastic, because you'll have that extra size. But if not, then you'll be looking at the 355 definitely. Okay, we've got our centre hole, so we can remove this waste. We're going to do a little OG sort of style. I want to have a landing, we call it a landing, just a flat area here for the spindle to rest on. So I'm just going to do a nice little pull cut.
Just quickly.
Yes, ma'am.
Just quickly. Someone here was just saying for their first bowl they used a few layers of beeswax on it.
Okay.
And they were saying it looked like the oil reacted with the wax. What's the best food safe finish for a bowl to keep it shiny?
If you want to keep a shine, you're going to struggle with all of oils and waxes. You will always struggle with. They need maintenance. Oils especially, you need to if you have a wok, and every now and again you'll need to recoat that wok with oil. The same with a bowl, a little white round of oil. You're never going to keep it glossy. If you want to keep it glossy, then you're going to have to create a lacquer of some sort. So that will be a barrier, and then you'll have to find yourself a food safe lacquer. If you want to keep a gloss finish. Food safe oil, you'll keep it sort of satin forever. Just keep applying it and giving it a buff every now and again. I'll show you the jar of food safe I used in here somewhere. There we are. So that's the food safe, and that one's completely clear. It's like water when you look at it, but you'll get a really good finish with that one. In fact, what I'll do is I'll do the difference. I'm going to have to be reminded, so Finn remind me. But when it comes to doing the bowl, this has been finishing oil. With the bowl, I'll use the food safe oil so you can see the difference. All right. But yeah, no, keeping a high shine on something that's going to be used in the kitchen is quite difficult. If you find out how to do that, let me know, without lacquering, of course. Right, I'm going to turn the lathe speed up. We're going to take away some of that waste. I'm going to cover this with my hands so I don't get covered in shavings. It's all going to get a little bit loud in a minute, so I won't talk just for 2 seconds. So all we're doing is pulling that cut and cutting the side blade. Right, now let's start looking at a shape. I'm going to clean that platform, that landing off with the skew. Nice big German style skew. Just put a little slightly just a very slightly chamfered inward cut there. That's nice, clean, tidy. Diameter wise, what do I want? That piece of timber that we've got for the stem is 75 mil. So I need to be within 75 mil. So let's go.
You're half an hour in.
Thanks, John. 35. Thanks, Vic. 35. 70. Now we could just be fairly plain there. Let's do something. Let's put a little bead in. So to do a little bead, I'm just going to put a little V-cut in there with the tip of the skew. Okay. I sort of have a design in mind, if you know what I mean, but a lot of this is fairly fluid. Let's do that. So changing my mind. I don't want this too big at all here, so I'm going to put a little bead on the end of that one. Now I'm going to stop there. That's going to give me some material to make a nice bead. I've decided that this is a little bit too big, so I'm going to take a little bit of that away. Flatten that back down again. Put that 75 mil back in. There we are. That's better. Already that's better. Just didn't look right. Didn't look right. It looked far too big. Now that's going to give me the opportunity. A nice little bead in there. Have a little convex curve on the top. Now we can add our detail, so back to our skew. Now you could try and roll this. What I found when you're rolling beads on a bit of faceplate turning is real issues, because if you think about the grain, as that grain comes around, okay, you've got grain running through that piece there, look. As the grain comes around, it'll pick, like a little tram line, it'll pick the skew up if you're trying to roll over. So I find it far easier, far more efficient to scrape a bead on a piece like this. Top bead, let's do another little bottom bead. Double check to make sure that platform actually is slightly hollowed. So basically what I mean by that is there's a very small gap here, but this is where we're going to be touching. So there'll be a nice clothesline when we get the spindle connecting to it. We're only going to glue it together with a wood adhesive. We're not going to go anything more aggressive, more stronger than that. A PVA or general wood adhesive is perfect. Incredibly strong nowadays. Right, so we'll sand that again and we can get on to the spindle. So now I am going to start with 100 grit. And I'm not going to slow the lathe down at all. We're going to keep it where it is. Do be careful though, if you just check the end grain, don't allow that timber to get too hot. So use your fingers as a thermometer. Make sure you don't burn your fingers. If you burn your fingers, you're going to damage the timber. Do your final shaping of your beads if you want to, with a bit of abrasive. As much as you can shape the beads to suit you. Don't forget, you could also misshape them if you're a bit slapdash with this 100 grit, so be careful. You know the score with this, the troublesome areas are going to be there and there, just where you're cutting against the grain. But actually, the timber's looking after me okay. Maybe a little bit around there, but apart from that, we're all good. There we are, so I reckon that'll be fine. So now we can move on to 150. I'm skipping a grade. I want to be on 240 grit. And if you are just starting out, experiment with these sorts of timbers. So this is ash, but beech, elm, sycamore, maple, everything that you can get close to home. And I'm talking if you're living in the UK, of course. Close to home, won't cost a huge amount of money, but it turns really, really nicely. I say if you're living in the UK because I know there's a huge amount of you out there that are outside of the UK that are watching and supporting all these videos, so thank you so much. There we are, so 240, so now 400. just turn that noise off for the moment. We get some oil on there. Same thing, and then the other reason for using oil, it's just so easy to apply. Avoid the hole though. This is going to be glue going in there, so I don't want to get oil in the hole to be glued up. So keep this spinning, and I'm applying without the lathe running because I don't want to get covered in the stuff. There we are. You might see some dust in here. It doesn't matter. The oil doesn't cling to the dust or vice versa. It's so nice to work. You know, sometimes if you use something like a melamine or a lacquer, then you really have to worry about dust and things like that. But this you don't. It's nice. It's an easy one. There we are. Lathe speed to 0. Don't forget it. You will forget it every now and again, but usually it's in the start of your turning career, and you very quickly learn the lesson. There we are. So sand. I'm just roughly sanding now. This is a 600 grit. It's not going to take off corners or reshape those beads for me. It's too fine. But what it is doing is just sanding that oil in nicely. Get into those grooves. There we go. Now I'm going to make on the spindle, I'm going to make the tenon, the tenon, the same on both sides. We use the same drill on the top of the bowl, but I'm going to make it slightly shorter. I don't want to go in as far. There we go. That will be enough. Let's get some shavings on there now. So same shavings. We want the same colour. If you use darker shavings, a lot of the time you'll find that the actual colour will come off on the paler timber. There's a guy, a fantastic turning demonstrator, Johannes Mattsson from the States, who makes Stetson hats and things like that. And our own Andrew Hall, Hatman, they use that sort of technique to create lovely colours on the sides of the hats, and it's really quite an interesting technique. But of course, the other side of that is shavings of any colour will also do the same thing on your work when you don't want it to happen.
We've got a question here from Chris. So is that wet sanding, and what's the benefits?
Wet sanding, it is a type of wet sanding, yes, but what we would refer to as wet sanding on cabinet making and things like that is with water most of the time. And what you're doing is generally you spray with a regular squeegee bottle, a bit of water on the surface. Just wait a few seconds then, and what that does is then raises the grain. You can then sand that grain off. So it's almost like using a sanding sealer, except what you're doing is removing the grain. And some finishes will want or require to do that so they can be absorbed better. There's a great one while we start to look at the stem, the base so far. Okay, so we need to keep this close at hand because I need to match that size up. I'm actually going to measure the drill bit for an easier or quicker way of finding the right diameter. So I'm going to move this one. We're going to use a Pro drive now, and the bigger of the Pro drives. Let's remove the Evo. How long, Finn?
You are 45 minutes in.
45, okay. I think what we'll do, 45 minutes in, let's go another 5 or so. We'll make the tenons and we'll stop. Okay, so you can get ready with the tenons. So let's go for a Pro drive, and we'll use the larger of the Pro drive. So the Pro drive has a nice sprung center point with these spurs on the outside. That one's 25mm. And in the other end we'll have a ring center. I've used ring centers so many times, you know what a ring center is now. That's going to pop in the tailstock, and we're going to grab one of those lengths of 3x3. My favourite method of centering.
Someone's just asking, where can he get a magnetic peg for a chuck removal?
Oh, one of those there. Yeah, go on to our technical guys and say it's for one of these machines, so the 406. And that, yeah, so exactly, do ask the same question to those, they know what they are. Any problems, then just pose that question again on the Facebook page and I'll make sure it's answered. I don't have the part number on the top of my head, that's the only thing, but they will have it in their computer system. So yeah, I know we have those for as a spare, I know that for a fact, so you should be able to get one from them. There we are, so centered up nicely using the marking gauge. I use a marking gauge as an apprentice. We were allowed a coffee break in the morning. We weren't allowed one in the afternoon, but you were allowed a coffee break in the morning as long as you took your billets up for the afternoon and got them centered up. Now, if you're using a rule or a center finder, you have to look at what you're doing, but with a marking gauge, you don't. So we could sit there having a natter, looking at each other, having a giggle, whilst we were centering up without a problem. There we are. Lathe speed to 0. Machine on, make sure nothing's touching the tool rest. Lathe tool rest, the tool rest below center, because I'm just going to rough down with the roughing gouge. Machine on, and let's turn this up to 1600. I'm going to use a 3/4 roughing gouge. Can it come up a little bit and down on the piece there, Ben? Just turn that off whilst you're doing that. So I don't get a little bit seasick, everybody, just for 5 seconds. We're going to adjust the camera to get you on top of the action, as it were. Alright. Just wanted to show off my legs, really. Okay, 1600 revs. And we're just going to skim to round. If you're unsure about a roughing gouge, start nice and low, touch on, lift the handle until you get the shavings. There we are. I think we're down to round. We'll stop and have a look. A few of you have been asking, or we've been getting a few questions about courses at Axminster. Unfortunately, at the moment, it's too early to say. Nothing is happening for the time being. Watch this space until things change drastically. We really don't know. We're in the same boat as everybody, so unsure at the moment. We all want to get back to teaching, but I think remote demonstrations and remote teaching are going to be the way forward just at this stage. Okay, so I'm just measuring the cutter. Now, one word of warning here. If you're measuring a Forstner bit or a sawtooth bit, some sawtooth and Forstner bits are tapered. They're a bit wider at the front and the back, so be careful what you're measuring. Make sure that your lathe is dead centered, because otherwise, if your lathe's not centered, you're actually cutting a bigger hole than that is. So just be aware of that. And to get the tenon right now, we're going to do just the first 2 or 3 mil. Get that fitting and then go back. Because if you make an error on the first 2 or 3 mil, you've still got timber to rely on to keep give yourself a good grip. And I'm going to use that as the top to start with. That's our first tenon. So let's have a go. So let's use, in fact, I'm going to use the smaller beading and parting tool, 6mm beading and parting tool. I'll give it a quick sharpen on the grinder. Right, so we'll have a check. just removing some of that wax. Right, so I'm just going to offer that up to the hole and see if it fits, or see if it's a bit too small even. Alright, so that's pretty good at the moment. That doesn't always happen. I think that was a bit of luck, but it just happens to be spot on. Right, I'm just going to pop the extractor on for 5 minutes. And as I know that size is dead right, I can carry on and do the other side, the other tenon. Okay, so let's just have a look. I'm going to double check now both sides to make sure we're in a good place. How many minutes have we gone?
You're up to 53 minutes.
53. Now, I would say that side's okay, but this side's a wee bit tight. So let's just take a little tiny bit off of that. Puts us in a really good position then, ready for finishing on Thursday. There we are. Well, there we are, everybody. That's us done for the day. We have our tenons made. Okay, fitting quite nicely now. So we know that we're going to get the same fit on both sides. Okay, so they're fitting well. That'll leave us ready to do is we're going to skim this down a little bit more. I want a nice fat belly on this one with a nice slender neck. We will need just to slightly recess these faces here. So again, so it fits and there's a nice join. And then don't forget, we're going to be working on the bowl then to sit on top. So we should have a nice little fruit bowl, raised fruit bowl, centerpiece for the table when you're done. So there we are, guys. There's a little bit to be going on with. Okay, so you got your base and the prep for your stem to do. It's the nice bit of the stem, something to look forward to on Thursday before we make our bowl. So until then, guys, you know the routine. Back here on Thursday at 4 o'clock in my workshop. Between now and then, we've got a new series of presentations by Craig Steele of the Skill Centre. He's going to be doing routing regularly on Wednesdays. So in his words is routing Wednesdays. That's same time in the Axminster Skill Centre, 4 o'clock. That's with Craig Steele every Wednesday. But for me, I'll be back on Thursday. Until then, happy turning, stay safe, and see you on Thursday.